What if I told you that there was an easier way to growing on social media without burning out, putting pressure on yourself, and running yourself to the ground? Nowadays, there's a lot of experts and gurus, including myself back then, who would tell you that you got to be on every single platform, be consistent every day, and have a team basically to help you grow, to build a content machine. But what I found is that if you're not careful, it really leads to burnout and increased expenses that ruin and absolutely obliterate your profitability. Now, you might be wondering, wait a second, there's so many guys and gals out there that do this strategy and they have so much success. They're able to bring their YouTube channels from 0 to 1 million. Well, you got to ask yourself, are you playing on the same playing field? Because those people that you are likely looking up to are people that have big budgets and big teams. And for someone like me who actually implemented this strategy and spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on this type of strategy, I still burnt out. In fact, I quit my business for an entire year, which is why in this video, I want to share a much more sustainable approach to social media, including the 6 shifts that I'll personally be making in my social media strategy for longer term success. So let's get right into it. Number 1, I am no longer tracking my social media metrics. I know it sounds crazy, especially for those of you who geek out on this stuff, but hear me out. When we set goals, we typically say things like, I want to have 10,000 followers on Instagram. I want to gain 100,000 subs on YouTube. I want to get at least 2,000 views per video. I want to make at least $3,000 a month on social. The thing with setting goals like this is that there is an element that we cannot control. For example, I used to have scorecards like this, where every single week I would track my metrics, my engagement rate, my follower growth, all the things, my views. And what I found is that it would always make me feel like shit because I would see that I was not hitting my goals. And there was an element that I really could not control. I cannot control Instagram algorithm changes. I cannot control YouTube algorithm changes. I cannot control how my audience chooses to engage in my content. I can try my best to optimize my posts, but ultimately I cannot control that end result. And so I found that making scorecards like this was not necessarily the most effective way to make sure that I would actually hit my goals in a healthy way that would also protect my mental health. And so I read this book called The 12-Week Year, and I'm not going to dive into the whole detail about this book, but the one thing that it does talk about is the idea that ultimately it's your actions that breed results. We can all say that we want 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, but if you are not consistently researching, scripting, posting, filming, promoting, improving, then you're never really gonna hit that goal. And so now, instead of having scorecards like this, I've now switched over to a more action-based scorecard thanks to this book. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is an example of what an action-based scorecard would look like. But before we dive in, the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is ask yourself, what is the main goal that you want to achieve with your social media this quarter? In my case, I would love to get 800,000 subscribers, which means that I want to gain an extra 100,000 subs. Now, I ask myself, what are some things that I can control to get closer to that goal? Because remember, I can't control the amount of views or the subs that I get. If I could, then I would be the next Mr. Beast, right? But what I can control is being consistent in posting and making a solid effort in improving my videos. And so what are the actions that I should be taking every single week to do that? Well, for me, I've identified that I need to script videos, I need to film videos, upload them, have a short form strategy to drive traffic to my YouTube channel, and also have at least a weekly analytic review. So I'm looking at the data and seeing how I can improve my thumbnails, my titles, my retention, all those things. Once I've identified the core actions that I should be taking every single week to hit that goal of 800,000 subscribers, which by the way is out of my control, but at least I know me taking these actions allows me to be one step closer to that goal than not hitting it at all. And so what I did was I used Notion to put in my main goal, and then from there I had each week laid out. Under each week are my weekly actions. And then under each weekly action, I get really specific. So for example, script 3 videos a week. Well, I have script 1, script 2, and script 3. Film 3 videos a week. I have video 1, video 2, video 3. Short form, I have all 5. Editing, I have all 5. And then for the weekly YouTube analysis, I just have 1. And so what I do is by the end of each week on a Friday, I'll review my action scorecard and ask myself, did I accomplish these tasks? So I'll ask myself, did I do script 1? Yes, I did script 2 and I did script 3. Great, 100% on this action. So I've completed it, great. And so I check that off. Next thing, film 3 videos a week. Well, truthfully, I only filmed 1 video a week. So I only accomplished a third of what this action required. And so I don't get a checkbox here. Short form, yes, I actually did script all 5 videos, so great, I accomplished this. And notice that this week's score is increasing as I check things off. Short form, edit 5 videos a week. I did do all 5 videos, which is awesome. So I also get a 100% score. Now I'm at 60%. And then did I do my weekly YouTube analytic analysis? I did, so I get a score of 80%. Now, inside the book, The 12-Week Year, it talks about how you should try to aim for 85% every single week, because then you'll be a lot closer to hitting your goal if you've accomplished at least 85% of those tasks. We don't aim for perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. Things happen, so I really appreciate that. I also really like the idea of having a weekly score for how many tasks that I've completed that are essential to me hitting my goal. Because let's say that I'm consistently not hitting 80%. Let's say every single week, for some reason, I'm hitting 60% of my weekly actions. And by the way, my weekly actions typically don't really change, but it can be adjusted if you would like. And I'll talk about that a little later. But let's say my weekly score and consistently is below 85%. Well, then that tells me 2 things. I'm either number 1, biting off way more than I can chew, meaning if I'm consistently not filming 3 videos a week, then maybe I'm at capacity and this is way more than I can handle. So the following week, I might adjust this down to 2 videos a week of filming instead of 3. The next thing that I appreciate about this score is it also allows me to ask myself whether or not I'm being distracted. Maybe I actually can film 3 videos a week, but I can't for some reason because I'm always spending my time on Instagram stories. And Instagram is not even a part of my goals. And by the way, keep watching this video because I'll tell you why. But ultimately, it allows me to just reflect and ask myself, why am I not hitting this goal? Do I need to adjust how much I'm taking on as one person? Or do I need to be honest with myself and realize that maybe I'm not focusing on the right things, or I'm spending too much time doing non-essential work? Another thing it allows me to do is adjust my routine too. Maybe it's not that I'm distracted, but maybe it's because I'm tired all the time, and that would require me to have an earlier bedtime or get 8 hours of sleep. So I really like having the scorecard because it allows me to reflect and it gives me flexibility to adapt where I need, whether it's within the scorecard itself or within my actual life. And by the way, I also use this concept for my own personal life. For example, one of my other goals this quarter is mastering my routine. And so here I actually have my daily routine that I want to be able to hit every single week. And I do the exact same thing where I score myself every single Friday on whether or not I did these things. And it doesn't even have to be at the end of the week. You could be checking these off as you go. But I find this really helpful. And what you'll notice is within my quarterly plan, I really only have 2 focuses. And later on in this video, I'm going to explain why that's important for me personally. But beyond that, if you actually read the book, The 12-Week Year, he talks about how every 12 weeks, you should really only have 3 goals max. And so that's why I only have 2. Now, I actually use the 12-week year system in a much larger way outside of social media, and I have a whole Notion board of how I goal set. So if you would like me to go through my Notion board and how I've set everything up for my personal life and also for my business life, then make sure you comment below and let me know so I can make that video. And if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want to do this on Notion, that is totally okay. You can actually Google the 12-week year scorecard, and you're going to see a lot of examples of how other people are organizing their action-based scorecards. I only did it on Notion because I like using Notion, but you can do it in a completely different way. The one thing I recommend is actually picking up the book because it does such a better job in explaining the whole concept of 12-week year that I didn't necessarily cover in this video. I'm focusing on growing one platform only. When I look back at my biggest career highlights, it was always when I chose to focus. For example, when I spent an entire year simply focusing on growing my YouTube channel, I grew my channel to 100,000 subscribers in that 1 year. When I focused on just perfecting and growing my online course, I went from not only making $1 million with that course, but eventually $8 million within 4 years. And so success leaves clues, and I am taking hints from my past self that there is value in focusing on one thing at a time. Now, in case you missed my last video, I actually documented documented what happened to my income and my social media platforms when I stopped posting for an entire year. Specifically, I compared YouTube and Instagram, and the results surprised me because even though I wasn't posting any new videos for an entire year on YouTube, I still gained 20,000 subscribers and I earned over $100,000 in income. And the reason is because people were still finding me through search, and YouTube was still in some sense pushing some of my older videos. Whereas on Instagram, I actually lost thousands of followers the moment I stopped posting. Instagram stopped pushing out my content and I earned zero income from the platform. And so that experience alone really opened my eyes to which platform I wanted to invest most of my time in, especially when I'm considering long-term growth and sustainability. Not only this, what I found is for me, I feel like the best impact I can make and the longer term impact I can make is on YouTube. While I was away and when I wasn't posting for an entire year on social, I never had anyone reach out to me saying that they missed my Instagram reels or that they missed my Instagram stories. But many people said that they missed my YouTube videos. Now, of course, everyone is different. The platform where you deliver the most value in is where your audience will likely go to. As Tony Robbins says, where your focus goes is where energy flows. What I also learned is that I can only focus on so many things at once, especially now that I'm a solopreneur. I need to manage my time wisely. And even when I had a content team and we were trying to be on every single platform, I noticed that the quality of the content suffered and my creativity stifled as well. I was mediocre at everything, but not great at anything. Now, this isn't to say that I'm not going to be on Instagram or any other social media platform, but what I am saying is I'm only focused on growing YouTube, while everything else I no longer have the pressure of wanting to build a huge following. Now, if it happens, but I'm no longer putting pressure on myself to grow on those platforms. And if anything, by taking away the pressure, now those platforms are a lot more fun. If you look over on my Instagram, I'm sharing more things that are outside of my niche, which leads me to the next shift that I am going to be making. And that is focusing on sharing my vibe and not necessarily just focusing my content around a niche. Now, a lot of people do tell you to find a niche, including myself, because this is good advice when you're starting out and also when you want to give someone a reason to want to follow you. Not only this, following a niche or at least having some focus in your content is going to be great for algorithms to actually push out your content because they need consistent creators who talk about a particular subject in order to know what content to push out to people on their platforms to watch or to engage with. And so there is a strategic element and it is sound advice. But this is a short-term strategy and not necessarily a long-term strategy, especially if you want to build a personal brand that people will actually remember and miss. Because guess what? When you only revolve your content around a niche, yes, you may grow, but you put a huge risk on your channel, on your personal brand, on your content. And the reason why is because niches can become obsolete. If you tie your brand to a particular industry, then if that industry goes kaput, then there goes your brand. For example, if you spent a lot of your time talking about, Apple products and all of a sudden Apple is no longer a thing, then you've really screwed yourself when it comes to your personal brand. You also end up becoming a commodity. If you focus all of your content around a particular niche, the moment that you stop talking about that niche, your audience is not loyal to you. They're just loyal to your content, to your niche. So when you stop posting about that particular subject, guess what? They're going to go somewhere else to the next best person that talks about that particular topic. Not only this, you as the creator, you will likely outgrow your niche as well. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I pigeonholed myself into the niche of Instagram. And while it worked and it helped me grow really fast, the problem was eventually I outgrew the subject, but I was still doing it. I was still posting it because I was on this hamster wheel of pleasing an audience that expected that type of content from me. And not only this, the niche that I chose, which is social media that changes all the time, it was really exhausting to want to keep up with trends. And so, like I said, niching down and having a niche is a great short-term strategy, but not necessarily long-term. And so, how can we exactly future-proof our brands and be an irreplaceable creator that people genuinely want to grow with and want to follow you for you? Well, it's to focus on developing and sharing and embodying your vibe. What is a vibe? Well, for me personally, I think a vibe is you sharing your interests outside of your niche. It's you actually sharing your wisdom and the experiences that you've gone through in your life outside of the topics that you're known for. It's about leaning into your personality. It's about letting your personality shine, having a particular aesthetic. It's about not just delivering information, but focusing on how you want people to feel after they've received the information. It's about sharing aspects of your personal life. And by the way, you don't have to share every single thing of your personal life, but the things that you want to share that you find interesting. Because while your niche can attract an initial audience, it's really your vibe that will actually retain them and turn them into a tribe of people that want to follow you for life. To me, this is how you avoid becoming a commodity, because now people are following you for you and not necessarily the information that you provide. They want to know about your routines. They want to know about your day. They want to know about what's up in your life. They want to know, what your plans are for the future outside of what you're known for. And I find that incredibly valuable. Even for me, there are a lot of creators that I follow and then I unfollow when they switch niches. But there are creators that I still follow, even though they've evolved, even though they've changed, because they took me through that journey of their evolution and I feel invested in it. And so, how exactly am I implementing this? How am I going to be sharing my vibe a little bit more while still pleasing the algorithm? Well, for me, YouTube is still going to remain an educational platform for me. This is where I share more of my tutorials. It's going to be a little bit more niche based, where I talk about content creation, social media, all those things. However, for my short form content outside of YouTube, or even within my YouTube shorts, let's say, it's going to be my creative outlet where you guys can get to know me a lot better. This is where I might share my interests, I might share my routine, I might share things that I've done that don't relate to my niche. I might share my personal experiences, my unfiltered thoughts. I really like this strategy because there's actually a lot of random things that I genuinely want to create content about, but I don't want the commitment of making that what I'm known for. So for example, there might be a really cool productivity tool that I want to share with you guys that I find helpful for my own life, but I don't necessarily want to be a productivity guru, and I don't necessarily want to spend time creating a long form video on. Or maybe there is this new beauty product that I am dying to share with you guys, but I don't necessarily want to be a beauty influencer. It can also allow you to test your content before you commit to it. So for example, if there is a concept that I might be interested in developing and investing time in creating a long form video for over on my YouTube channel, I might create a smaller version of that and put that on Instagram or TikTok and see how the audience reacts to it before I commit my time to actually making a longer form version of that. It can also be within your branding. For me, I really like kawaii things. Like I really like super cutesy things. And so I actually, redid my whole office to show those elements. So for example, my keyboard literally has cats or bunnies on it. This is a cloud, this cat and a moon star thing. I have a freaking potato that's just up there on my shelf. And so these are things that I genuinely love. Like look at my coaster. This is like a cat coaster. And so even within the things that you put in your video that's not necessarily information, but is like in the background of your videos, can also attract the people that have similar interests to you. At the end of the day, we're often attracted to creators that we feel the most likeness with. And so by me doing all these things, it's because I genuinely like them, but it's also because I want to attract an audience that likes those things too, because it makes my job as a creator a lot more enjoyable, and I'm able to build a community that I genuinely want to contribute to and want to be a part of. Next shift is I'm now focusing more on spending my time doing permanent content rather than vanishing content. And I'm specifically talking about any content that only lasts 24 hours, like Instagram stories. What I found is I used to spend a lot of time on Instagram stories. I would put a lot of pressure on myself to show up every single day on stories because I loved seeing the instant gratification of seeing how many views and also getting instant interactions from my community. But what I found, especially when I took a year off of social media and I reflected on this, I realized I spent way more time doing Instagram stories, and that time could have been spent making more short form content that basically share the same thing. I used to drop so many value bombs, so many, behind the scenes of what I'm doing in my life on Instagram stories, and I feel like I should have turned those into more permanent content pieces that would actually give me more results in the long term. Now, in this video where I actually examined my social media when I took that time off, I noticed that the one piece of content that got me the most subscribers was actually a YouTube short. It was a YouTube short that YouTube decided to push out even though I posted it 2 years ago. And so what I'm realizing is, whoa, instead of spending all that time creating Instagram stories, because sometimes for me, the amount of time that I spend on Instagram stories and creating good stories for you guys actually was the same amount of time of putting together an Instagram reel or a YouTube short or a TikTok. And so I'm realizing, whoa, there is so much gold that I kept sharing in my Instagram stories that would only last 24 hours that would necessarily not give me any benefit once it expired. And yes, you could argue that you could put it in your highlights, but if you put it in your highlights within Instagram story, it's basically assuming that that person already follows you or found your profile. Whereas if you turn that into an Instagram reel, there is potential that a non-follower is going to be able to find you through their explore feed or through their feed in general, because now Instagram pushes out people you don't even follow. And so personally for me, yes, I see value in Instagram stories of cultivating community and creating content really quickly and also encouraging DMs or even selling through Instagram stories. But for me personally, I'm not gonna be spending as much time as I did before. Now, on the topic of no longer putting pressure on myself to be on every single platform or to have a goal of growing every single platform and also not posting every single day on certain mediums, my next shift that I'm making in my social media strategy is to integrate unpredictability. Now, what I mean by this is I used to announce my posting schedule to the world. Hey guys, you can expect a weekly newsletter from me every Sunday. Hey guys, you can expect a YouTube video from me every Wednesday. Now, this is great to establish cadence, to establish, I guess, a sense of trust, or to establish, consistency, but it also burnt me out like crazy and took away my creative freedom. What I mean by this is I used to have a newsletter, and it was this really fun outlet for me to write whatever was on my mind without feeling confined to a niche and for me to just speak freely to a more contained audience. It was something that I genuinely loved doing, until I made it a thing. Until I told people that, hey, this is gonna be a weekly newsletter, so you can expect a new email sent to your inbox every Sunday at 10 a.m. I found that the moment I set a schedule for my newsletter was the moment my newsletter almost became a commodity. Now I put myself in the same league as every other newsletter that gets sent out every Sunday at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever. And because I know my audience is likely subscribed to a lot of newsletters, because I was sending it weekly, it no longer became a special thing. And not only this, because I forced myself to write a new email every single week, you could see that the quality of the emails were pretty much inconsistent and declining. That's where I learned that sometimes having a schedule is great, but other times you might want to keep certain platforms or certain content pieces without a schedule so that you have that creative freedom to put out good shit. And so that's where I learned that even though sometimes having a schedule is great, it's also okay to let people miss you. Let people miss your amazing content and to also genuinely focus on quality versus quantity. And I actually learned about this concept through my friend Glo, who's been able to generate 6 to 7 figures every single year without a posting schedule. Here's what she has to say.
All right, letting people miss you. This sounds counterintuitive probably to all the advice that tells you to be consistent and show up nonstop. But like you have seen, many of us have burnt out from that. And I've been posting on social media since 2001. So it's been a long time. I've been on Instagram for 13 years. And at the point where I disappeared for the first time, I posted on average 1.4 times for 10 years. And I knew that what I was doing felt like the worst thing in the world, abandoning my community and throwing all my hard work away. But I had to. I literally had no other choice. And I was suffocated by this rat race and this trap that I built around the consistency of my audience expecting me to show up every single day. So I disappeared. And then the benefit of this is people started to realize wait, these daily posts from Glo are gone, what's happening? And I made no announcement of my departure. I just stopped posting. So what people naturally did is started searching my name themselves. They'd come on my page, scroll my content, see if there's anything new. And because there wasn't, they would just direct themselves to the link in my bio. People took it upon themselves to make their own purchases. So there was no marketing funnel, there was no strategic optimization of how I set up my content. It just naturally led people to the link in my bio. And when I realized that I was actually 2-3 timesing the sales by not posting, I just really took that all the way home. And you might think that this might not apply to you because you are just starting or your audience is too small to even notice that you're not posting. And that might be true too. This won't apply for everyone. This is a strategy that honestly, if you've been showing up and you've been consistent and your value has been proven and you've been generous with your content, This is for you. Try it. I promise you it will change the way you want to show up online. And I think there's something beautiful about the demand from scarcity and unpredictability. I stopped putting expectations on myself that I then had to broadcast to my community. I'll send a newsletter when I feel like it, not just when I have something to sell. I'll literally send something when I have something to say. And some of the musicians that you love and listen to, you buy their music every time there's a new album, not because they tell you every year to expect one, but because you're so excited to listen to their new music because you've gone so long since their last one. So understand that you are also creating demand by scarcity and kind of being inconsistent. Again, you might have to earn this privilege to disappear. It is not a strategy for everyone, but for those who this applies, use it, run with it, take it. I promise you it will change the way you show up forever.
And so overall, I think that social media nowadays has just gotten so noisy, and the bar has just been set to a highly unrealistic standard, especially for those of us who don't have a team and don't want a team. For example, I remember back then it was more than enough to just post 3 times a week on Instagram. And now it's not enough. The standard is you got to post every single day, have a short form strategy, be on Instagram stories, write a newsletter, be on YouTube, do all the things and engage and be a part of a community and sell a course and do all these things, plus manage. It's just gotten so out of hand. And that's why I don't necessarily see integrating unpredictability as a strategy. I just see it as permission. Pick one platform, stick to a schedule for that platform, do it extremely well, but all the other platforms, do it for fun. Do it because you want to do it. Don't feel pressure to be everywhere, because from my experience, when you try to be everywhere and you post all the time, not only do you burn out, but you also just dilute the quality of your work. You dilute the excitement of your work. I remember I dropped everything to watch Rihanna perform at the Super Bowl because she has not performed in a long time. Using that as an example, I know that it might not apply to everyone, but I just wish that us creators kept certain elements of our content unpredictable so that people will actually appreciate it when we put it out. That's just kind of what my thoughts are on this subject, and is something that I'm integrating in my strategy or in my life or in my business, because I don't want to burn out and I want to put out quality work. And that's just simply not possible if I'm trying to be on every single platform and be everything to everyone all at once. Now on to the next shift that I'm making in my social media strategy, and that is simply to keep things lean. Back then, I focused a lot on growing every single platform and being consistent on every single platform. And when people tell you to build a content machine, they're also implying that you need a team to help you execute that. And so for me, I had 2 video editors, a copywriter, a social media manager. I was doing all the things. But what ended up happening is I burnt out, because now a lot of my time was spent not only creating videos or trying to create videos, but also managing people. And at the same time, with these people, I obviously have to pay their wages. And so my expenses increased and my profitability decreased. This year, I'm approaching social media in a whole different way. As you know, since you're at this point of the video, I'm really focused on one platform and not necessarily putting pressure on myself to grow every single thing. And so I don't necessarily need that big team anymore. And in fact, I really only have one video editor helping me now, because if I edited my own videos here, half of you guys would be out the door. But anyways, now that I only have one video editor, a lot of the other things that aren't related to video editing is still on me, which is why I now rely heavily on tools and apps to help me get more things done with less time. So for example, I use ChatGPT, and I have full-on brainstorming sessions with ChatGPT. It is basically my smartest content intern. Not only this, I use apps like Hemingway AI and Grammarly to be better at writing and to help me review and proofread what I'm writing, and also to give me better suggestions and alternatives that would captivate my audience better. I also really love to use free apps like CapCut to put together videos like this, and to also do auto transcriptions. These were things that I used to pay video editors for, and I'm so grateful for apps like CapCut, who not only make it really free, but also make it really easy to use. In addition to this, occasionally I'll also go on Upwork and hire contractors for small projects. Typically, it's things that are important, but I don't necessarily want to do. And so, as you can see, my social media strategy this year is a lot more simple, a lot more focused, and a lot more profitable. In a world where so many experts and gurus tell you to do more, everything, all at once, I want you to ask yourself whether or not you are actually willing to make those sacrifices, whether it's in time, your money, or your mental health. Remember, success is only truly meaningful when you can sustain it in the long term. Anyways, at this point of the video, I've really shared all the shifts that I'll be making for sustainable social media success. I want you to hit the notification bell though, because in my next video, I'm gonna be sharing all of the gear and equipment that I use to bring my content and my social media strategy to life. So make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss that video. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.